Welcome folks to this tutorial. In today's video we will take a closer look in how to add new li tags inside an UL list automatically with JavaScript as a function. Alright, first things first, the definition of the UL tag is in essence an unordered HTML list, and this is usually utilized for menu items in web pages. Alright. Having said that, I'm going to show you how to create this particular list. So in essence, this list must be created with this structure. So firstly, you have to open a new UL tag, just like this. Let me set something over here. This is the open tag that you have to utilize to open these kind of things. And just to close this out, you have to utilize the same thing with this forward forward slash, I'm sorry. Inside of this list, usually people put LA elements. As I was saying, this let's say tag in HTML is utilized to show list and stuff like this. So I'm gonna do this just by putting um, li element. I'm gonna put this out just like this. Sorry for that. All right. I'm gonna open a new. I'm gonna close this out. Sorry. Okay, and this is essentially the structure for an UL list. I'm gonna put as an example 3 different elements just to show you how it works. I'm gonna put this over here, the number 1. Next to this, I'm gonna put the number 2 and the number 3. I'm gonna run this code in a browser that I have opened for this purpose. Let me do this. All right. Okay, so as you are seeing over here, in bullets are appearing all the elements that I have created. This is essentially an UL list as a definition, or its definition is like this: is to list elements in the way that I'm showing you guys in this moment on my screen. I'm gonna zoom out just to show you better. And well, in this case, the idea, or right now, that what we want is to add those li elements, those bullets, automatically by using a JavaScript function. This is really interesting topic here. This is the really interesting topic here, actually. For this purpose, we will create a JS function like this. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna create the function in question. Let me open this out. I'm gonna do this just right here. I'm gonna delete those elements and I'm gonna leave this UL list empty as it is. And I'm gonna create the JavaScript function. Firstly, I'm gonna open a new script, type, this is just a text script. Hence, I'm gonna utilize this reserved information or words, JavaScript. All right, close this statement. And I'm gonna close the script that I'm gonna create just by using this element. All right. Inside of this, let's say JavaScript function, I'm gonna create all the elements that I'm gonna need in order to do this process. Firstly, I'm gonna create a function. I'm gonna name it. I'm gonna put something like add li elements, just like this, something like this, right? And I'm going to start by creating the list, the li list. So the idea is to do this process automatically. Hence, I'm going to utilize a booklet. I'm going to utilize the for statement just to do this process automatically or recursively. So in this case, I'm going to put this out something like that. I'm going to create three elements as it was before deleting in this section. So I'm going to use this letter to do the counting. This is going to start in 0. I put this out. This is going to start in 1. Less or equals than 3. 3, all right. And this is going to be the task that this function is going to do, which is essentially to add one unity for this element in each booklet. So having said that, I'm gonna do this process in an array. So I'm gonna create an array firstly, where I'm gonna store all the information that I'm gonna create. So in this case, I'm gonna create an array just like this, var b. This is the structure that this function actually has. All right, and I'm gonna use this over here. I'm gonna assign step by step each element inside the array. I'm gonna use this structure. Um, well, so in this case, just to have a better understanding in what element I'm gonna create each time that this, let's say, function is gonna reproduce or run, I'm gonna put something like an structure. I could use just the element to create, let's say, um, the element inside of the array. But in this case, I'm gonna do the process slightly different, just to differentiate the elements from each other. So in this case, I'm gonna utilize this function just to let's say show to us that the element that I'm gonna create is an li element, and I'm gonna concatenate this element with our counting or variable that we are utilizing for the counting. Having said that, the next thing that I'm gonna do is to create an li element. So the li element, to create these kind of things in JavaScript, we have to use this structure, document dot create element, and between parentheses we have to put what the element I'm gonna create. In this case, is gonna be the li element, right? So having said that, let me check something just to make sure that we are recording everything. Okay, all right, all right. So having said that, I was checking the audio. Sorry for that, guys. Okay, so having said that, the next thing that I'm gonna do is to create. Oh, all right. So let's say that we want to add anything, something like a class. You know, there is some occasions where you have to add features to the variable that you are creating or to the element that you are creating. Let's say that you want to add a class to this element. All right. So the process is pretty much simple. What you have to do is to call the variable that we just created. I'm going to delete these equals. I'm going to assign a property or a feature to this particular topic. Hence, I'm going to use this statement, which is set attribute. This attribute or this statement allow us to add any different, let's say, features to the variable or to the element that we just created. So I'm going to do this, and between parentheses, I'm going to put what kind of element or what kind of feature I'm going to add to this topic that we just created. In this case is going to be class, and you have to pass another, let's say, element to this function. So let's say that we want to add a class that we have created with the name page item, something like this. You can put anything as you want over here. So the idea is that you have a clear example in how to use this kind of element. Right, so in this case, the next thing that we want to do, let's say that we want to add um, an ID to this element. Well, in this case, what we have to do is to use the same statement, which is this one. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this out over here. So the element that we are going to add, or the feature that we are going to add to this topic is going to be ID. So we are going to add an ID. Uh, Over here, we have to put something like the ID that we want to assign to this particular element. Let's say that we want to add an ID called li element, something like this, right? I'm gonna close this out, and um, the last step should be to append this, let's say, element to the UL in question, because until here we just created the element, but the idea is to add this element with all its features to this particular UL. So in this case, we're going to do this in two steps. The step number one should be to append precisely the function created by JavaScript for this purpose is append child, which is something like to add a child element to the main one or to the parent one. I'm gonna do this in this way, and the idea is to put over here the name of this element. To make it easier, I'm gonna use this function document create element, and between parentheses, I'm gonna put the name that I want to put to this particular feature. All right, so the next thing that we are going to add is to add precisely the information or the um, element that we have created to the uh, parent element. I'm going to utilize append child once again. Append child, great. And between parentheses, I'm going to put the element in question, which is this one, right? Okay, so if everything is going to work as expected, we're going to create three different elements associated to this URL. All right, however, we have to clarify something. So in this case, we need to add, let's say, this element to the UL that we have created. How to do this? How to do this? So, well, we have to call this element from this function. For this purpose, we are gonna do something. We have to call outside of the function. Well, in this case, outside of the for, because the idea is to the function or the method is calling the the UL element just once. And well, what we are gonna do for this is, well, we're gonna create a new element. I'm gonna create this bar called UL, and I'm gonna call the UL in question document dot get element. We're gonna call this element by its ID. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do this. Element by ID. ID. All right. All right. So between parentheses, all that we have to do is to put the name of the element in question, just like this. Let me show you. Okay, I'm gonna put for this element an ID called list. List. All right. Having said that, I'm gonna call from here just to name this element inside my JavaScript function. I'm sorry, it was list. All right, so let me do something here. Oh, All right. This is the only step that I was missing. So in this case, the element is going to be associated to the UL in question. We just call the UL element from our JavaScript function, and the element that we just created is going to be associated through this function to the UL in question. All right. So having said that, we're going to see if everything is working as we want. I have saved it already, so let me recharge my page just to see if everything is working. It seems that we are missing something because this is not running as expected. Let me check something over here. Let me check something over here. So let me see if everything is typed as I want it. LI element class page item element. All right, it seems that I'm gonna utilizing the wrong method over here. So what we need in this case is to create a text node. Sorry. Because what we want is to put a name to this element. All right, so what that we have to do is just like this. I'm gonna rerun once again this element. All right, seems that this is not working properly. Let me check something. All right. Right, yes. So everything is created as expected. However, we have to call, as always, this function. So, well, we have created the function in question, but we are missing one step. So we need to call this function somewhere. I'm going to create something like an a tag to call this function. This is the only step that I was missing. Sorry about that. On click, I'm going to use something like this to call this function. So I'm gonna call this function from here over here. All right. It seems that we have to complete this with something like this. I'm gonna put something like press me. Press me to call this function. Press me. Okay. And I'm gonna close this statement just by using this reserved word. Right, so I'm gonna save this, and let's see what happens. All right. Right, as you're seeing over here, we are doing the same thing as we did previously, just by using a JavaScript method. I want to show you something, guys. So in this case, all the elements that you are creating has in essence the same, let's say, ID. And sometimes this is not really useful because when we are utilizing an LI or an ID feature in an LI or any, let's say, tag, what we want is to call it as unique. So we are going to try to change this, let's say, word for a different one. So the idea is that each LI element has a different, let's say, name for its ID. That is what I'm gonna do right here, right now. So let me do something from here. Okay. Okay. So in this case, we're gonna use this, let's say, element to call this different, slightly different as well. So element, and we are gonna concatenate this with our, let's say, counter to make this unique and different from the previous one. I'm going to create a variable Probably you don't know guys yet, but the method or the, let's say, yes, so the way that we are going to utilize or that we usually utilize to concatenate elements is by using the dot symbol. I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to put this out over here, and I will do this just like this. C, which is the variable that we just created. And after that, we are going to use the word concat, which is the reserved word for these kind of things. Concat, and the element that we are going to utilize to concatenate this element. In this case is J. I'm going to save this, and we are going to rerun the function in question. Right, so I'm going to press this out, and each element of the list is going to have a different identifier. As you are seeing over here, the first one has li underscore element number 1, the second one list underscore element 2, and so on and so forth. In this case, for these three elements, each one has a different identifier. Okay, so having said that, I'm going to create an array called B, or in this case, what we are gonna do in the last section of this video, I will answer anticipatedly a common question that you guys usually ask me. What if you want to add extra tags inside the li lists created, like an a tags or something like that? Well, in this case, the process is quite similar. It's really, really similar. So in this case, let's say that we want to associate a different tag to those li elements. Let me show you how it works. We are going to utilize the same function as we are doing right here, but I'm gonna call this section adding the additional tags to the li created, something like this. This is in essence what we are gonna do. All right. So in this case, what we need to do is to call each element that we have been creating. So the element that we just created is named as B, and we have to extract this information from a different position from the B array. So in this case, I'm gonna do this just by utilizing, let's say, an array. So let me do this just like this. B, D. All right. Inside of this element, we are gonna call our element, the element in question. I'm gonna put the identifier here later on. Firstly, I want to call, as I did previously, the element in question, which is by utilizing this particular function. And between parentheses, I'm gonna put its ID. So the ID that we just created is this one, as I showed you previously. And well, in this case, we are gonna utilize something like a different word, the same logic that in essence, I utilized previously. I'm gonna put something like this to concatenate this identifier. And next to this, I'm gonna create the element in question. So the element that I'm gonna create, I'm gonna call this element, I'm gonna put this information in another array. Let me create this array. And over here, I'm gonna fill this out. So in this case, I'm gonna put the element that I will create, something like this, utilizing the same logic, just to differentiate the elements from each other. Okay, so I'm gonna use the same, let's say, function as I did over here to create the a tag, but in this case, I won't create an LA element, but an A tag. All right, so having said that, I'm gonna put something like a name to this element. Hence, I'm gonna utilize this logic. I'm gonna add this element as associated to this li tag. Hence, I'm gonna utilize this function to append or to associate this a tag to my li that we just created, that we are just creating. In this case, we will use the array that we just created, just like this. And all right, create text node. Okay, I'm gonna leave it as it is. And next to this, I'm gonna associate a class. If we want to add anything like a class, this is up to you. I'm gonna show you guys the complete example. If you need this, or if not, there is no problem. You have, in this case, in the case that you don't need to add anything like a class or something like this to this a tag, you can, let's say, easily delete this particular section. But I want to show you guys how should be created if you need it. Let's say that we want to add anything, another, let's say, class to this particular item. Next to this, let's say that we want to associate something like an action to this a tag. Something like if the user needs to associate a function to this element, he will be able to do that. To do this, just by setting an attribute, by using this word, we can add an onclick function, just like this. Onclick, this is the kind of element that we are going to use for this a tag. And let's say that we want to call a function that we created with this name, let's say test. And let's say that this function is requiring you two different, let's say, variables to run. So I'm gonna put something like this, and well, I'm gonna repeat it. I have not created yet this function, but this is for only for testing purposes. I mean, to show you guys how it should be created if you need it, just to give you the complete example and allow you guys to do this process whenever you need it. I think that I'm missing just one more parenthesis. Yes, I was missing this one. And the last test step, as always, is to add the element in question to the to our, let's say, li main element. Hence, I'm going to use the same logic that I utilize over here. In this case, I'm going to utilize the name of the element that we want to associate this a tag as a feature, just like this. I'm going to use the same logic. I'm going to use this out, and between parentheses, I'm going to put the element in question. All right, let me close this out, and I'm going to put semicolon. Okay. All right, so it seems that we have completed all the function. All that we are missing, or all the only step that we are missing in essence is to save it. That's what I just did. And we are going to rerun this function from here, and let's see what happens next. Okay, it seems that this is not working. All right, this is probably because I name it twice the same thing. Let me delete from here the name of the li tag. Let's say that we want to put, yes, I'm gonna leave. So I won't name this element li append child. All right, I'm just gonna name it once, right? All right, this is working as expected. I'm gonna show you the same thing with, let's say, 10 different elements to show you that this is actually working with n different elements. So in this case, I'm doing this with 10 different elements, but if you need to add n elements, I mean 100, 1000, this function allows you to do this. This is really useful because sometimes we need to do this kind of lists extensively. And this case, and this kind of functions can save us time in those kind of things, because otherwise this is going to take us forever. All right, so with that being said, we are gonna inspect these kind of elements from here. Say that we want to inspect the first one. As you are seeing over here, the first element has these features, an ID, a class, and inside of this or of each element, you have a function, a class associated to this particular li element. If you need to add different tags or different kind of tags, this you have to apply essentially the same logic. All right, guys, I think that this is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you really enjoyed this video, and you might find this useful for future situations where you have to perform this kind of tasks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a nice day, and thank you so much for everything. Bye bye.